Hi there, and welcome to my channel. The channel that I call Work in Progress, Always Evolving. We are still what I think is considered a pretty new channel. So, Work in Progress and Always Evolving certainly is right for now. And this is also a channel where I have this vision where we can have conversations with people just like you and me. And when I say just like you and me, I mean people that are, just navigating through their journey of this particular lifetime and are willing or desire to really share some of their life experiences, their life story with others, and the idea to help others. So maybe you've gone through some very challenging times, and that may help someone out there that are going through similar times like that. Or maybe you have a story of where you've gone from a really low, dark time to finally getting to a place of maybe peace, and you can share that, and that'll resonate with someone. Or it can just be a very basic story of everyday stuff that you go through, or maybe how you've been challenged with life at times and something that you were able to do that actually, succeeded or helped you succeed in something. So it's all over the place. Hey, it may be something about UFOs. That's cool. Whatever it is, I'd like to really invite you, if this idea resonates at all, I'd like to invite you to click on the link below this video, the link that is how you contact me. And I'll definitely get right back to you. And let's see if we could have some, conversations going on. So today, I want to talk about, I'm going to share, which I normally do, right? I normally share my personal I make me the personal example of what I'm talking about, because that's where most of my stuff comes from, and that's where my learning is coming from. I have to say I have a different chair right now, which I really like, but it swivels. So I have to really be careful that I'm not moving back and forth, which I am, which that could be a distraction. So let me see how I can fix this so I don't keep moving. Okay. So, what I want to talk about today is something that happened to me, but let me kind of give a well, it's not even a backstory, just give what I'm wanting to share in terms of as an example. So, the question that I have for us today is how many of us are in our heads, meaning we're having the stories in our heads or having the what's happening as a story, as something happening, we add story to it. That's, thoughts basically. It's thoughts, beliefs, whatever. And it's something that gets triggered from outside of us, a wound, a belief, a something that gets triggered. And then we put a story to it in our minds, right? And then we add to the story oftentimes. So something happens, and then we begin to say, okay, this happened, and now what? And we have all these ideas, and maybe an idea of what we should do about it. Maybe we're angry. Maybe we are, happy, whatever it is. But it's a story in our mind. So basically, here's what it looks like. Life is happening through us all the time, and it's all energy. So it's always moving, it's always changing, right? And as life's happening to us, we then begin to oftentimes get triggered, most of us, to something that's going on out there, but the trigger isn't real. But what it brings up is a belief, an emotion, an opinion, a whole experience. And life's just happening, but we're getting caught in our own story because we got triggered. And we leave the moment, the now moment, and we start to have this conversation, if you will, in our head, right? And we start to build on this story. Now, the truth is, there's nothing true about the story, right? It's like a novel that's being written that's not true. It's fiction. It's absolutely fiction, but we don't experience it that way. When we're into our story, whatever it is, we experience it as true, absolutely true, rather than that it's just, a fiction. It's just fiction. We don't get it. So we get caught up and pulled in to these stories. And I just had an experience of this idea very recently. And I watched it going on, actually. I actually saw a little bit through what was going on, but at the same time, I was really caught in it, completely caught in it. So here's the story, or here's my example of what happened to me. I had spoken with a person that wanted to, that reached out and said, I'd love to have a conversation with you. And we were doing this through Facebook messaging, right? And that's the only way I was having contact with this person is through this. That's how I got contacted and then, responded back through Facebook messaging. However, what had happened is something went wonky on my Facebook messaging, and I was having a really hard time to get a message back and forth. I didn't know what was happening. I was able somehow to have a little bit of conversation that way, back and forth. And then at some point I saw this is really getting difficult. And so I said to the person, here's what's going on. I'm having an issue with my Facebook messaging. I don't know how to fix it or what to do about it. I tried. Actually, I spent a half a day trying to update or upgrade, and it wouldn't happen. And so I said, how about if you could give me your email, and then I'll email, and we could set a time to have a conversation, meaning just without recording it or putting it on YouTube yet, just so I can get to know you a little bit and I can understand what you'd like to share. So that was good. Okay. Then, so I said, I'll send you the email, get back with you on see what times work. The person told me the times that most convenient. Okay, great. And so I send this email about the times and to try to get an answer, back from him. Would this time work for you? Or another time work for you, whatever. And at this point, it was getting almost impossible for me to message back to get a message through on my Facebook messaging. So anyway, send this email out, and I don't hear anything back. I don't hear a thing for, I don't know, 2 days, or it felt like a couple days, right? And I even sent a second email saying, did you get the first email? And this is the only way I was going to be able to have to make contact, was through this email. Nothing is happening. Nothing. And so my story in my head goes like this. Okay, I don't know what went on, but obviously this is a person that's not wanting to really connect. It's a person that I don't know what was going on. What do they call it? Ghosting. I had a whole story of one. I was feeling upset, but then I went through a whole thing that this must be a lesson for me to accept, right? To just accept what is. However, I was having a hard time doing that. Emotionally, I was feeling really, I don't know, disappointed, confused, like what's happened here, that type of thing. And so I just kind of kept watching me going through this, but at the same time, I'm emotionally very distraught. And I want to be able to accept what is. Like, okay, this must be my lesson. This is how my guides are working with me right now. This is what I tell myself. This is acceptance without judgment of any kind. And so I'm talking to myself like that. And so the next day, while I'm, the next day after kind of having a restless sleep, I could say, or kept wanting to have my guides help me be in acceptance, like, okay, this is the lesson, to be in acceptance. And that day I decide, okay, I'm going to share this story, because it really was about, in my mind at that time, it really was about how do we accept what we're having trouble accepting. And I was going to share this and basically say, I'm really not wanting to carry this energy around. I'm really wanting to just be in acceptance. And say I have no idea what this is about. Maybe it's happening for the best. Probably is. And yada yada. And I actually did this. I recorded this, but I hadn't put it on YouTube at that point. Or maybe I uploaded it to YouTube, but I hadn't published, because I tend to put my videos on and then schedule publishing down the road. And so anyway, this was what was going on. And so I made this whole video, not in the blaming of the person in doing this. It was really definitely about trying to accept what is, when I really don't want to accept what is, but just kind of trying to talk about acceptance. So that evening, after, of course, I did this video, or maybe it was the next morning actually, I get an email saying, I just saw this. I didn't see it before. So, a day later, something like that. I didn't see this. This is a person that really doesn't use email that much. And so anyway, at that point, I was okay. And he was saying, I could talk now. I wanted to talk on Zoom, just to get a sense of who the person was, and that person get a sense of me, etc. So that person said, but I could talk now, even though it was after the time that I was asking for. I said fine. And so it ended up that, and then at that point we exchanged phone numbers, so there could be texting. Now, here's what's interesting about the whole thing is, I had made up such a story around this situation, and I had bought into this story, like it's all about accepting. And my story in my head was so strong about, this person disappeared, and that and feeling all of the emotions around this, because this was to be my first conversation with somebody, and I was putting a ton of energy into it, and then I'm having all these technical issues with how I need to record on Zoom, and I had to do it on a different device, and all this stuff was going on in between all this things. I mean, tons of stuff. Even logistically in my house, I had to change where I had the computer. I mean, it wasn't like just a flip of the switch. It was kind of frustrating all the way around, particularly on this technical thing. I don't like, I shouldn't say this. I was going to say I don't like anything technical. I have a love-hate relationship with technical stuff. That I'm not comfortable in it. I can't work with it from an intuitive level somehow. I think this all goes back to, I had test anxiety in school, and I think that's what gets triggered. But anyway, that's another story, right? So finally, we actually are able to have this conversation. Then I'm working through more technical issues as we, try to decide on the date to actually have this talk and put it onto my YouTube through Zoom, blah, blah, blah. So through all this, the point being, without me going into all this detail, is I really watched, somehow witnessed from another place, how I get caught or make up these stories in my mind, in my head, wherever it is, and how they become real, I mean, it just becomes real, yet nothing's happening. Life is just going on, right? But my assumption, or my reaction, is taking on a life of its own. And, I think at the beginning I thought, well, maybe, something's going on for that person on that person's end with, not receiving emails. I mean, I even went so far to say, oh, well, maybe that person got in an accident and is in the hospital. Or maybe there was a family emergency, and couldn't get. Anyway, I had all kinds of scenarios going on in my mind, trying to be okay with it on some level, and was stuck. I mean, I definitely could see myself stuck in this storytelling. So when it all got sorted out, as I looked back on it, and this is why I'm talking about this today, I see how many times I'm caught in my story, you know, and I see it's a suffering that you go through, or at least I do, when I get stuck. It's like and how real this stuff in my head seems, and how the mind seems to want to really know what's going on, what happened. That's the false. I fall right into being that false self, right? False identity. That's where I go. I go right there, and then I start having my experience from that place. It's like crazy when you really step back, or at least for me, when I step back and look at how that whole thing unraveled, and how I was making this so important and very much attached to the outcome of how this was going to come together, and all the things that are story in my head, and how that has such an impact on my quality of my life. And I know it's crazy making in a way, because I can see from that witnessing point, I'm watching, and I'm saying part of it is like, well, why am I taking this to the nth degree like this? But it was definitely a lesson in how I can take a situation or a circumstance and turn it into a novel, a fiction novel at that, and that it has no reality, but in my head it has reality. So what I'm really suggesting to any of you that resonate with this idea to try, here's what I've been trying. I don't know, maybe this will help you, maybe it won't, but what I've been trying to do now, and want to continue to do, is have an awareness of when I start to live from my story due to whatever's going on, circumstance, whatever, rather than in the moment. It is so much better for me when I can be in the moment. Now, can I be in this perfect life where I just don't have any situations or circumstances come up to trigger me? No, that's not going to happen. But I'm pretty sure that with practice, meaning with becoming more aware, maybe sooner, if I can, of what's going on in my head versus what's really happening, as life is just happening in the moment. And to recognize these triggers for no other reason, because it didn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. Life doesn't care. It doesn't matter if I get anxious, upset, whatever I'm going to get. But for my sake of not having to go through the trauma and the drama that's been made up in my head, in my mind. And it's an ongoing thing. I mean, most of us do this all the time. We've got these opinions, these beliefs, triggers, wounds from the past. There's a whole bunch of ways that these things can be triggered and touched into this false story and totally believed, by the false self. I'm going to guess that many of you can resonate with this idea, or more than an idea, with this story I'm sharing, and have been down this road, have been down this rabbit hole is really what it is. So I thought it was very much worth sharing, because I thought it was a really very direct example of how we do these stories in our head, right? And how it can make us feel or evolve. Like, let's say, I'd never heard back, that I did not ever hear back from the person. Then I could add a whole bunch of other stories to it, right? And I could become very, like, and not trusting the next person that would maybe show up saying, yeah, I'd like to have the conversations. So that could create a whole other event in my head, right? To be careful, because you don't want this to happen again, because that was not fun. It didn't feel good, yada, yada. So I see it's kind of complicated or complex maybe, yet it's pretty simple. When I really look at it, I think, well, look, I don't have to go down that road, do I? No, but I have to be aware. I have to have enough awareness to kind of, let's say, override the story. Because just, the story's there. It's going to be there. But how much am I going to buy in? And I discovered you can't force yourself. It's not like I can force myself or could have forced myself to be in acceptance and not have this whole thing of, well, what happened and why, and I need to know, and blah, blah. You can't force that to stop. I think it really just needs to be a strong intention to back up, watch, take a look, and see, can I let go of the what is this thing? It's such a strong desire is what it is. Can I let go or relax the desire to have to know something about this, or to make it into a story? I mean, what would it be like if I could just accept what is without a story, without anything? Just, I don't know. I know nothing. A lot of the masters talk about that. You know nothing. It's all made up, right? And yet, it doesn't feel made up. But now I feel I've kind of got a bit of a handle on it, so to speak. I don't want to go down this road again. It doesn't mean I won't. But it was definitely a very, very direct experience of how my mind works, how I can get into these stories, and how when I get really attached to an outcome, then that's going to take me down not a real great road, I even noticed, I mentioned with technology, it's not something that I'm intuitive about. And I kind of have always led my life from this intuitive place, pretty much, especially doing certain things in business, etc. It's been pretty much intuitive. So when I don't have that available to me, that intuition about technology, then it definitely triggers this whole thing about test anxiety. And I think I'd mentioned that, school wasn't my favorite thing by any means, and I really struggled through school. It wasn't my, it wasn't where I wanted to be. And it wasn't where, so when, I wasn't intuitive with it, let's say that, with most of the classes. And so the reason that I think test anxiety came up is that you do a test and then they're passing, at least this is my day, old times, they'd pass back your test and it would have a red mark and, barely passing was red. I don't know how it was identified, but it was. You didn't have to come close and look at the piece of paper. You could see it from far away. So I felt everybody was seeing that I didn't do well on the test. No surprise to me. And then that just developed into all kinds of test anxiety, whether it's going to get my having to take a test for the driver's license, or even this technology thing. Like it's, for me, I get into like I'm passing this test because I'm not intuitive, so I'm kind of feeling like I'm out there in no man's land. And what happens, the anxiety that builds around this idea, in this case kind of trying to work through technology, is in that I start making all kinds of mistakes that I know better, that I don't have to make, but I start making these mistakes because got so much anxiety that I'm in a place of just I'm manifesting in a way that, click this, click that, and then something's not right. Oh no, I don't know why it's not right. And it usually ends up as a very simple thing that I missed. Even when I have to return something to Amazon and I'm online doing that, you go through several steps to return, and I take it to a UPS where they take it. Anyway, there's quite a few things for me they have to do. I get the test anxiety thing. And so the reason I'm talking about that is because I can see that I manifest the mistake in a way. I don't know how else to say it. Even when I'm doing these videos right now, I've made fun of it, kind of laugh about it, but I have a little clicker. I do this on my iPad, and I have a little click thing, meaning I don't have to put my hand on the iPad since it's touch. I have this little device that clicks it off. Well, for some reason, I know the reason, when I'm actually doing a video, it takes me several times to click it off. But when I'm not involved with the video and I'm doing something else on it, I can easily click it on in one click and click it off in one click. So it's something like, if everything's energy, then there's probably some energy that is coming through that is blocking what I want for the result, or blocking my attention in a way, or my seeing what the deal is, or having things working on the computer, or not going through this angst when I'm having to send something back, to send something back to Amazon. And I can get sweaty palms from this. And I'm sharing this not because I think it's very interesting at all, but I'm sharing it to say how simple things can be, or when I say simple, to have problems with simple things is what I'm saying. We'll always go back. If you can go back in time, you'll find where this gets triggered. And, I've discovered not that long ago, really, that my test anxiety is really there in times that one wouldn't think about having test anxiety, but I know it's where I'm feeling the least intuitive about something. Yeah, so pretty weird, really, but I don't. That's the way it is, and so I don't see that's going to change, other than working through this test anxiety, maybe being able to see what's lodged still, what kind of trauma is still lodged in the body around, that time of having, of testing. It gets triggered, like boom, say test and I'm triggered. So I want to work on that, and I will be working on releasing that, really trying to go deeper, and let it be seen, let it be heard. And, I've done this with many other things before, and once that can clearly happen, then the anxiety goes away for the most part. Yeah. So I hope this made sense. Always hope that. And I hope it helps somebody out there. Let me know. Let me know if you resonate with what I'm talking about, and the voice or the story in your head that we put together? Did any of this kind of click something in you? I'd love for you to leave me a comment and tell me what that is, or just, leave me a comment that, hey, you get it. You get it for yourself, what I'm talking about. So do please, if you're motivated in that way, then leave that comment. Quick reminder again, if you'd like to have a conversation with me about, one of your life's experiences or several of your life's experiences that could be shared, and with the idea of let's help one another. It'll help us learn that we're much more alike than not alike, etc. So please look below the video. That's where my contact info is. And if you like the video, please click like and subscribe to my channel. That would be great. So in the meantime, as I always say, be kind to yourself. That's what I'm always working on. And it's getting better, by the way. I do want to tell you this because maybe this can help you or motivate you in some way to just keep working on this idea of kindness to yourself, compassion to yourself. At this time, what we're going through this process as the human species and this evolution that's happening, it is absolutely required that we do the best we can to be kind to ourselves, right? That's the first place. First, we have to be kind with to ourselves before we can really be kind to another. So I really always want to leave on that note and encourage you to, really take a look at how you treat yourself. Most of us treat ourselves pretty not great, but that can be changed. Like I've said, I'm actually seeing changes taking place for me that way. So until next time, take care, and we'll see you soon. And I mentioned the clicker. Let me see, maybe it'll just click off. I don't know what, there must be something in my energy that goes on with this. Isn't going to click on one time back there, but let me see if I can just take a deep breath and click off.